He's Derek.
I am always a minute away from becoming an after-school special.
She's Romaine.
Like, really, bitch? Really? Really? Come on. That's bullshit.
This is Derek and Romaine.
2.0, bitches. Really, bitch?
Derek here, along with Romaine, and joining us now, my old pal from high school, Richard Hatem. He is a writer and executive producer on Titans, which airs Thursdays on HBO Max. Check out the current season there, and you can follow Rich on Twitter. He is Richard Hatem on Twitter. Rich, welcome back to the show.
I'm so glad to be back. Derek, Romaine, it's so good to be speaking with you. And yes, for the time being, I am still on Twitter.
For now.
How much longer is that going to last?
I don't know. It feels very provisional now. It's like now's the time to either go all in and just start like posting everything, like just whatever my most radical political views are, and then just vaguely porny pictures of myself, or get the hell off. One or the other. I don't know which one.
Look, I'm very upset about the downfall of Twitter because I was just about to start posting nudes, and now. Here's where we are. It's very upsetting.
No, Derek, now's the time. I think now's the time. There are no rules now. No one's going to stop you. No one's going to judge you. All bets are off.
I guess it has become the Wild Wild West. And, that's fine. If I'm going to post nudes somewhere, I want to post them in a judgment-free, empty zone, not dissimilar to my own house.
Yeah, and then also if people don't respond appropriately, with the appropriate amount of lust that they should, just say that your account was hacked and those really aren't pictures of you, and just disavow.
I can't believe that my head was grafted onto the body of Anne Margaret. This is an outrage. I'm very upset. That's an old callback to TV Guide. Okay. Anyway, nobody knows who that is, Regis.
Nope.
Rich, unlike last time when I talked to you, I am all caught up on the current season of Titans.
Okay, I gotta say, real quick before Derek jumps in, I have not watched Titans, but I know a lot of people who do, and I typically respect their opinions. But I want to know, Rich, why should I start watching Titans as someone who is not currently watching?
Well, yeah, I really don't have an answer for you. No, I would say you should start with season 1.
Yeah.
Especially in terms of season 4. Season 4 has a lot of, not really callbacks, but it sort of is related to events that occurred in season 1. So if you, like in a weird way, you could almost watch season, like if you had no time and you really had to budget this, you could watch season 1, that's 11 episodes, that's 11 hours, and then go straight into season 4. Now, there are characters that were introduced in season 2, like Superboy, and he is very prominent in season 4. So you might want to go back to episode 6 of season 2, and then you also might want to watch the end of season 3, because season 4 starts almost just like a couple of days after season 3 ends. We straight into season 4. So really, I guess my answer is start at the beginning, go through every season, watch it all.
Now,
it's fun. It's a fun show. It's the people who are fans, God bless them. It's like family. They consider these characters literally just an outgrowth of their heart. And they really care about how they're portrayed. Every season, we try to inch a little closer to what the fans want. I think this season we're as close as we've ever been.
Oh, okay. All right. So, but how is it different than any other like superhero show? Or is it different? Is it just if you love superhero shows, you're going to love Titans?
I will say that it's very, in a weird way, it's traditional. It's not meta. It's not The Boys. Boys, from what I understand, is a great show. I have friends who work on it. But it's not meta. It's not staking its claim to be not your dad's superhero show or not your grandfather's. Like the thing about Titans, the tightrope we always walk on Titans is that the Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go, the earlier animated versions of the show that people loved as a kid, we're now the adult, live, violent, it's like 10-year-olds can't watch our show. 14-year-olds, are probably, on the borderline because there's there's blood and violence and all that stuff. So we've tried to stake our claim as, hey, we're an adult version of that original property, but at the same time, we're not disrespecting what you love about those characters. We're just taking them forward a little bit. So it's, and sometimes we go too far or we don't go far enough. And they're like, how come these people, we're shipping them, put them together more. And it's like, believe me, that's more difficult than it seems. But this season, I think, and don't look, I'll tell you guys because, I don't get asked to talk about Titans a whole lot. So I'm going to tell you guys that last season, we heard from the fans. Okay. Mm-hmm. We got dragged up one side and down the other. And everything they were saying were things like, can't we just see them hanging out together? Can't we just see them? Where's the Christmas episode? It's like, we don't need the world exploding and everyone being angry and it's just have them hang out at a bowling alley. So I'm telling you, the minute we got into the room to start writing season 4, I was like, we are starting the season with all of them together hanging out in a bowling alley. And you have no idea how hard I had to fight for that. I'm like, we've got 15 minutes in episode 1 before things go to shit where these people can be enjoying each other's company. Would you please? But it's like, yeah, but we've got to budget time for the fights and the special effects. And I'm like, guys, save your money. Just put them in a room, give them all some milkshakes and let them talk for 5 minutes. And it'll be the scene everyone loves. So that's what we've tried to do. That's where we are.
Well, I also think if you have a group of characters, and I know that during the production during the pandemic has made production very difficult because sometimes actors are less available to travel, or there are issues of, do we really want to have of all 8 cast members in one room at the same time? Like, what if something happens? It's going to screw us up. If we only have 1 or 2 people at a time, we're minimizing our risk. So I know that there are a lot of other considerations that go into these things in terms of production choices that get made. Because I have noticed it in a couple of shows, not yours, but that I watch where suddenly certain characters are just not in the show for weeks at a time. It's like, where did they go? What happened? They go upstairs to get something and they never come back. So I know there's things going on behind the scenes we're not always 100% privy to, that this is a consideration, but I'm sure that the fans are also feeling that, especially when you have an ensemble show and the characters are supposed to be engaged with each other and relating to each other in a personable way. If you're not seeing that for whatever production reasons, I'm sure that does weigh on the audience, and we're all feeling this disconnection. I think we want to see people connected to each other on the screen.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it does get tricky. You hit it on the head when you said there's a lot of backstage things that just the audience can never know and would never know. And it has to do with people's schedules and it has to do with budgets, but there's all kinds of reasons you're not seeing all your favorite characters all together season after season after season. And so we're always, but the other weird thing you said, which is also true, simply putting 5 or 6 people in a scene, actually, even if they're just sitting around a table talking, is an incredibly difficult production challenge because, and I was always like, what are you talking about? Like literally I'd be on shows and they would say, I'd rather have you blow up a bus in the middle of Times Square than write a scene that takes place during Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm like, I don't understand why. They're like, okay, let me explain. You've got 8 people around a table and they're all eating. Okay. We've got to cover all 8 people. Okay. So we've got to, literally we have to shoot the scene 8 times. And we're going to get 2 shots and we're going to get single shots. It's going to take us all day and we still might not get it done. Okay. We can only justify it if the scene's at least 3 pages, or else why even go to the trouble? And for 3 pages, we're going to have to go around that table a million times. Now, while we're doing it, everyone's handing food back and forth and they're eating food. Well, they're going to have to match that action all day long. Plus, we're going to have to get that food refilled and redone, and glasses of wine and water kept to the same levels. All 8 of them, all 8 plates, all day long, maybe more than one day. It is a nightmare. It's a nightmare for the actors.
Right.
And I'm like, I never thought of that. And they're like, yeah, that's what, now you know, if have a nuclear bomb go off, but oh my God, don't put people around a table eating. You'll notice often when people are around a table, either A, the meal hasn't started yet, or everyone's pushing back, they've just finished. And that
I have never noticed that before, but now I'm going to pay attention.
Oh, yeah. I have definitely noticed this on White Lotus. They're always arriving for a meal or going to the buffet for seconds or whatever. They are never actually sitting and eating on White Lotus. Like, never. And I just think, I've been on these kinds of vacations. I want to eat the whole time. But yes.
Yeah, no, you're never going to see it. That's really cool. Yeah, watch for that. The other thing is, like, I'll be watching with other writer friends, and cast members will be sitting in a restaurant, and the waiter will come up and say, can I describe tonight's specials? And they'll say, no, thank you. We're just, we're waiting for someone. And then the waiter walks away, and we all look at each other and go, this show has money.
Because they paid for a waiter to waste time.
They paid for a waiter to say a line. So when you have a bartender, if characters are at a bar and a bartender comes up and sets down a couple of cocktails and walks away, you're paying that person far, far less than you would have to pay them if they set down those drinks and go, can I get you anything else? The minute they open their mouth and say a word, you're adding thousands of dollars to what you're paying them. So the first thing you cut in the budget is people who don't need lines do not speak. And if you're going to speak, then you better give them lines, and it better be damn important that they're talking, because that's money. So yeah, there's all kinds of weird things.
It's there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes we will never know or understand. But with this season of Titans, there is a bit of a romance on this season, and it relates to something that has been ongoing in the comics. So as a writer for a show like Titans, how much do you draw from the comics? How directly do you feel like you have to go to it as source material, and how much of it is just a place that you look for ideas that can be translated into the screen?
It's much more the second, because, well, first, if I understand, you're referring to Tim and Bernard. Tim Drake.
Yes, of course. I'm talking about the homos.
Robin.
Yes.
At first, I'm like, is he going to go for Dick and Corey? And I was like, oh, right, we do have another relationship we're dealing with. Oh, yeah. That was introduced during, I think it was either as we were concluding season 3, we found out about this, but there was no one ever told us. And so we had introduced Tim Drake, and then suddenly Twitter and the internet is blowing up with, oh my gosh, Tim Drake, has a crush on a guy. So he, is he gay? Is he bisexual? But one way or another, he's queer. So and he's just been introduced on the TV show. So we're all looking at each other like, well, wait a second. We didn't know the comic books were going to do this. We had just introduced a character, and now we don't know what the expectation is. Well, Jay, the actor who plays Tim Drake, thankfully just stepped right up. I mean, he was, hours later on the internet saying, I think it's amazing. I think it's great. And, wherever the writers want to take this character, I'm I'm up for that adventure.
Nice.
And he sort of made it possible for us to do it or not do it, and do it immediately or not do it immediately. And like, well, maybe that'll be down the line a little bit. But once he sort of said he was up for it, and once we looked at the structure of the season, we were like, you know what, why not? Let's explore this. And that'll give that character a couple of things, because he's got a couple of journeys this season. One of them obviously is integrating onto the Titans, just trying to figure out, how do I fit into this group, and when do I, do I become Robin or do I not become Robin? Do I become something else? How much do I help? I'm sort of a new guy. Do they even trust me? And then, so he's got that storyline, but then he's also got, there's a person I'm interested in, and maybe they're interested back, and what happens with that? So we suddenly we had a lot to do, which we were happy, because Jay is such a great actor. I mean, from his first episode, we were like, okay, this guy is fantastic. People love him. Let's just push stuff in his direction. So yeah, that's where we are. And we're, no one, I will tell you, there was no question, no hesitation, no fear on the part of the creative team, the network, the studio. Everyone was like, go for it, do it.
Well, and in the comics, they, the characters in this case, Tim and Bernard, were sort of longtime friends that had floated in and out of the comics over a 20-year period. But both of them were characters that were a little uneasy about their sexuality, like finding their way. So in a way, it's actually great in this context too, because that's something as writers and actors that gives you even more to explore, because Tim's character is in such a transitional period in his life. And I'm sure also sort of feeling the pressure of other people have superpowers and I don't have superpowers, and I'm supposed to be a superhero without, sort of what other characters have. So I think it does give a lot of dimension there.
Well, and it's such a great point you bring up, because we did, when you do it, you have to kind of, walk down every path a little bit and go, well, what kind of story is this, And we sort of immediately said, let's not make it a coming out story. We've seen that done, and he's already sort of coming out. He's sort of coming out into the world of superheroes. So like, in a way, it almost felt like the same story. So it's like, let's not make it about that, because if you do a coming out story, it implies that there's either an interior or an exterior conflict along that journey. Otherwise, why highlight it? And we're like, well, we don't really think any of the characters in the Titans is going to be like, what, you're gay? Get out, So it's like, there's not really drama there. And you know what? Let's just have a character who sort of knows what he is. And then it was funny, because we're like, well, if he's already okay with it in and of himself, like he's already, whatever that journey was, he's already completed that journey. And so he's arrived at his own orientation. Well, then how do we, and we know we want to now put him in the beginning of a kind of a relationship. So then it was like, well, do we have to sort of like for a while I was writing lines where he's on the phone, like with his dad, and he gets off the phone and they're like, what's going on? He's like, oh, nothing. My dad, my ex-girlfriend and my ex-boyfriend just walked into, my mom and dad's noodle shop, and he's freaking out, but it's no big deal. And so we put lines in to sort of like let the audience know, okay, so now kind of where he is, you'll be able to understand the story that we're going to do for him. And then someone is like, I don't know who it was, said, well, why do we have to do that? Why not just have him start a relationship? And it's a gay relationship. And you don't need to warn the audience. We'll all figure it out when he's looking at the guy and the guy's looking at him, and and it's clear, they're going to have a relationship. And it's like, yeah, that's right. We don't need to how much prep does an audience need to understand someone might not be straight?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Well, also in this case, the character already has a certain kid sister energy of, bad things are happening now. Go hide in a closet somewhere. That is upsetting. It's already upsetting for Tim that he's sort of sidelined when the big things are happening. And the fact that somebody like capable and engaged is looking his way, like, hey, I believe in you. I think you're great. Probably is the kind of fuel that can bring two people together in a very plausible way. I thought I thought that was very believable. Of like the only person who is really seeing him, like seeing the potential in him, is also interested in him and romantically, and that opens up a lot of doors.
Oh, that's cool. I'm glad you picked up on that. That was certainly part of the conversation because, we have every conversation. That's all a writer's room does is like, just picture a group of travelers heading down a road, and at every fork in the road, they stop and go, okay, do we go left or right? And then they argue about it, and then a decision is made, and then the group goes down left or right, depending on what they decided. And that's all part of that. Everything you're noticing is the result of hours of discussion in the room, or minutes, depending on how contentious the subject matter is. But we even went down the road of, well, wait a second. If we're going to tell a story about him and a guy, then we're just like, well, wait a second. Like, we literally went through. It's like, well, what about Beast Boy? Have we ever said what Beast Boy is? And then we're like, well, but we can't. Now we are changing canon because now we're doing something that the books haven't done. And do we even want to do that? Or do we have other plans for that character? And why are we making a decision about another character's orientation simply based on, well, we need to have his story told with someone? And then we're like, well, that just makes sense. So then as we saw what was going to happen in the season, we're like, well, you know what? Why don't we just have it happen the way it happens in real life, where you meet someone along the way doing whatever it is you're doing in your life, and it becomes a part of it. So let's do that. So that's where we are.
Now, you wrote the first episode of this season of Titans. Do you have a preference of when you're writing episodes? Is there a lot of pressure in being the first script? Do you sometimes wish you were the last one of the season? Like, where is your ideal place as a writer in turning out episodes in a series?
Oh, dude, this season 4, I'm the first episode, I am the last episode, and I am the mid-season climax, episode 6.
Oh, those are all. You're in the pole position.
Kind of important positions, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, that's the position I want. I want if they walked up and said, you're writing every script, I'd be like, quit talking to me. I got scripts to write. I would be so happy. No, the first one is great. I've written the final episode or co-written the final episode for a few seasons. And I'm happy to do them. With Titans, the way it breaks down often is, are you doing are you doing an episode that's in the main story arc, or are you doing a standalone? Because every season we have a couple that are just sort of like, we go down a little cul-de-sac.
Mm-hmm. What we call around here a Buffy filler episode.
Yeah.
Because on Buffy, there would be whatever the season's big bad was. And then in between, there would be a couple of seasons where, Glory wasn't around. And then, and so then it was just a filler. Like, okay, well, we got to fill out our 22 episodes. So sometimes they were great, like the Hush episode. And then other times it's like, oh, they're just filling time here. So. Yeah.
Well, I totally get it, and that it sort of does do that. It was one of those things that Akiva and Jeff Johns really wanted to do. They were like, now that we're in a cable, streaming situation, we don't have to do traditional network storytelling. We can do little like, oh, let's kind of go over here for a while, and let's go over there for a while, and then we'll come back to the main plot. But for instance, I would say in season 1, I co-wrote the episode where Jason Todd was introduced. And that episode ended up being just sort of Jason Todd and and Dick Grayson, just sort of like on their own, solving a mystery and sort of having their own, kind of 48 hours, lethal weapon, buddy cop thing as they sort of figure out who they are. And, Dick kind of figures out, okay, who is this new guy who's taking over the job of Robin? And then later in season 2, I ended up writing the episode that introduced Superboy, which was very much, up until the last 1 minute of the episode it was like a pilot where it was Superboy, who he is, how he became what he is, where he goes, and how he meets up with the Titans. And I loved doing that episode. And last season, it was the episode that took place in the afterlife with Hawk and Donna and Tim Drake for a little while, which was another really fun, because they're weird. They're just these little self-enclosed dramas. So you don't have to worry about, okay, now what do I owe from last week's episode, and what do I have to set up for next week's episode? You can just do a little movie. So I love doing those. This season, I didn't do that. This season, all my episodes are on the arc. I start the story, then the middle of the season is, like, okay, we end on a cliffhanger that'll bring you back for the, second half of season 4. And then the final episode, which, as far as we know at this moment, is the final episode of the series. Or could be if it has to be, So, because every season we have to write it like we're never coming back. So we have to wrap everything up.
That you have to write like that.
Yep.
But I appreciate that that's the way it is, because I hate when a series just randomly ends and then I'm left on a cliffhanger and I'm like, but will I ever? No, I won't.
Yeah, it's like season 1 ended on a cliffhanger because we knew we were coming back at that point. But every other one has had to conclude the season, leave a door open for the future if there is a future, but at the same time sort of leave you with the feeling of, okay, they're together. We don't purposely do a thing where it's like, but then there's a question, it's like, no, they're good. And if we see you next year, we'll tell you what's happening.
At a bowling alley.
So, yeah.
Lord.
Now, I have sort of a technical DC question, because this season there's a bunch of stuff going on at Star Labs. And as a longtime viewer of The Flash on the CW, that all took place at Star Labs. So I have a question about the sort of internal discussions about where in the DC universe you are, how connected or not connected to other things are you, and when there are things like this where you're having characters or locations that are utilized in other shows, how much of a consideration and discussion goes into that?
Very little. We're told early on what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. If there's a character we want, it's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, we check with DC, and DC typically says, no, you're not allowed to have him, but you can have her, or you can't have her, but you can have that other guy. And they let us know, or how much we can have, how much Lex Luthor were we allowed to have, So the thing about Star Labs, though, is that in canon, there is more than one Star Labs. There's a main one in Metropolis. And then there's the one in, is it Center City or Central City?
I think Central City, yes, sure.
Central City, yeah. But then there's a few others. There's actually there's several locations of Star Labs. So there isn't just one. And so once we found that out, it's like, great. So we can just have our own Star Labs. It doesn't have to have Harrison Wells, or Cisco, or any of the cool people from Flash. They've got their people, we'll have our people, and we'll just do our own thing, which typically is what we do. We check in, and, with big names, big aspects of the, DC storytelling. And once we're cleared, we can pretty much approach it any way we want. Genders can change of certain characters. we can, we blind casting, no one is concerned with, it's like, no, any ethnicity, let's keep reinterpreting these characters in as many different ways as possible while maintaining their core aspects as characters. It's not, the color of a character's skin isn't necessarily important when they can shoot fire out of their hands. That's and when or if they are cursed, or if they're carrying some internal emotional wound, that stuff is still going to work. And you can kind of go in any direction you want. So we've really enjoyed that level of freedom.
Well, and that also is in keeping with the spirit of the comics as well, because a lot of characters that have been in the comics for decades have had any number of transformations over the years. I mean, we're talking about the third Robin. Like there are many Robins and many stories and many characters, and even the individual characters have gone through a lot of iterations. So I would imagine that gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of the storytelling, because it's not like how early on with Star Trek, like it's not super, super precious. There's only one version of this and we can't ever deviate from it. The end.
No, you can't. And that's been the rule from the beginning. The very first day we showed up for the very first season, that's the first thing that Jeff and Akiva said was, we're not just wholesale adapting these runs from the classic things. We'll take elements, and if you're a fan, read through, and if you come up with a cool way to take a nugget from something and put it in, great. But we're specifically not looking to just move it from the comic book page onto the television screen. We want there to be reinvention. We want the characters to be the characters. Beast Boy is Beast Boy, Raven is Raven, but within that, take them on new adventures.
Okay, so we two of our team members here, AJ and JayBee, we only employ people who go exclusively by initials, but both of them were very excited. Were upset that I did not let them know that we were interviewing you last time, and both of them demanded to be here to talk to you this time, and then neither of them are here today. Now,
so typical of our team.
Very typical of our team. They're super reliable. But JayBee has a question that I'm certain that you will either not have the answer to or will not be able to answer. But I promised him I would ask it anyway. So here is his question. With the new CEO of Warner Brothers in charge, he cut most of the animation departments like Cartoon Network and the show Young Justice. So in knowing this, what does the future hold for Titans?
Good question.
Oh, well, I don't know. That's kind of why we're all waiting around. There is no, it's not like, based on the new person who's, the head of Discovery and the head of Warner Brothers, based on who they are, we know for a fact they're going to do this stuff and they're not going to do that stuff. We have no idea. And we also don't know the degree to which, HBO Max is weighing in on certain things. All we know is that Titans has performed well for HBO Max. I think HBO Max is thrilled with it. It's one of their shows that people watch in great numbers. There are other shows that get Emmy nominations, but that's okay. Someone's got to pay the bills.
That's right.
So we know that HBO Max would, probably want to keep us on the air, for forever. But what DC's plans are now that, James Gunn, now that, he's a big voice at DC, is there a particular feeling one way or the other in terms of Titans? I don't know. So we're going to wait and see. I mean, I think everyone who works on the show, cast included, would come back in a heartbeat because, we've been doing it so long, and it does feel like a family, and it feels like the fans out there will always have our backs, and And like I said, I think every season we're trying to have their backs more and more. So we'll see. I don't know. With the animation, that's math that I can't even approach.
Yeah. Now, since you mentioned, feeling like a family, the actor James Scully, who plays Bernard on this season of Titans, he said that he really felt that the cast and crew were a very tight family. So is that your feeling as well?
Yeah, we've been through a lot. This show has been, every show, one way or another, was touched by COVID. That was a supreme test of everyone's skill. Take an impossible job and make it 10 times more impossible. That was the situation we were in for all of season 3. So every episode that was produced in season 3 was produced during a 100% lockdown in Toronto, which is where we film. The restaurants closed, bars closed, stores closed. Actors would come to set. They would be, literally shuttled onto the set, practically in hazmat suits. Wouldn't talk to any, barely, they could do hair and makeup, and then they're on set, they do their scenes, and then they're off set. The social aspect was almost completely gone, and then they would just go back to their apartments. When a cast is away from home, and our main cast, in their own real lives, they don't live in Toronto. They live in LA or Australia or Europe or New York or a million different places. And now they're in a city, and it's go to work and now go get locked in a box until we take you back out of the box and put you back in front of the cameras. Typically, the cast gets to go out on the weekends and go to bars and go to see movies and plays and restaurants and socialize and sort of feel like they've got some sort of life. Season 3, they didn't get any of that.
Wow.
Nor did the crew, nor did the directors, or the writers were in LA, so we were all on Zoom, locked up in our individual homes. But the challenge on set was a million times harder. They made it through. Yeah, they've been through some shit. They are now a family that has been tested. And yeah, I'm glad. And James fit right in. I'm glad he said what he said, because he was welcomed instantly. And then this season, of course, up in Toronto, restaurants were open and people could socialize, and so they all did. And it's fun to see. It's fun to run into them. It's fun to see them on the street. It's like, oh, I didn't. It's a Saturday afternoon and 2 or 3 cast members are hanging out, and it's amazing. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad he said that, and it has become a family.
Yeah. Now, I know we were all sad about Alan Ritchson moving on, but I have to say, after having watched Reacher, man, that was a good show. He was great.
Isn't he perfect?
Oh
He's perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, so you have to. So here's the deal. So when season 3, maybe even in season 2. I guess it was early in season 3. We heard that they were doing a show called Reacher, and they were trying to cast it. And the minute I heard that in the room, I'm like, oh, who'd be perfect? It's Alan. He is Reacher.
Yeah.
But obviously he can't do it. He's on our show. But look, if these people wanted Reacher, we've got the guy. Well, of course, then time rolls by and COVID comes and goes, and people are making plans and stuff, and then suddenly it's like, oh, well, I guess this might be Alan's last season on the show. Okay, and then the next thing I hear, he's been cast as Reacher. I'd completely forgotten I'd said anything. Top of my head came off. I am a genius. I immediately email him, and I'm sure, it's like 10,000 people emailing him because it's in deadline. I'm like, Alan, the minute I heard you would be perfect, and then a year later I find out you're the guy. I can't believe it. I'm so happy for you. And Alan, being Alan, returns my email within about 2.5 minutes. He's just like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing, Rich. It's so great to hear from you. I'm so glad. I'm so excited about that. And we chatted. But anyway, he's the best. And yes, he is Jack Reacher. I could not be more happy for him.
Yeah, I like perfectly cast. He was so great in it, and the show is really well done. I have to say I was very impressed because when new things launch and you're like, I hope I like this. But and also I just thought he was great on your show. I know he was like a guest star, and I was like, oh, this is too bad. But honestly, like that worked out great. So just the right actor, right show. Sometimes it
I know.
funky.
I mean, from day one, we're always talking, spin-offs. Like, we should have spin-offs. It's like Hawk and Dove should have their own show.
Right.
And Superboy and this character and that character, and let's have the fans were like, oh, Donna Troy and Starfire should have their own show, because we did a little storyline where it was just the two of them, kind of fighting crime together before they got, pulled back into the Titans. And people were like, oh my God, that's the show. We're always like, how can we just use these people more, but highlight each person? Because like you said, it's hard when you've got 10 main characters. You can't service all those people every episode, and you want to. And every time you don't, you're leaving talent on the table. But it's like we have to move forward, and we can't put everyone in every scene. It's going to kill us. We don't have the time or the money, so we've got to figure out another way. But that's what makes it great when a guy like Alan goes off and is starring in his own show, and it's like, finally, a full serving of Alan Richson.
Oh, and it was, because he doesn't shy away from the nudity, and there was plenty with extra on the side, quite a bit. All right, Rich, before we go, I enjoy, just like the classic Spy magazine, log rolling in our time. So I want to ask you about your wife's podcast, because she has a podcast.
Aha.
Yes, she does. I'm only a guest on podcasts. She actually does a podcast where you have to do work and actually produce episodes. And, I just wander in, suck in all the air, and wander off. She's actually got to figure out how to, edit and stuff. So anyway, yes, she's got her own thing.
Tell us about her podcast.
Now, I would love to. It's called the 80s TV Ladies. It is on... It's something that came up during quarantine, where we were watching a lot of the old 80s shows, and we're like, wow, there's either no women on the shows. The A-Team, they kept trying to figure out a way to put a woman on the A-Team, and then after a couple seasons, they're like, yeah, forget it. It's just these four dudes, And then we're like, God, did any shows in the 80s have women? And then it's like, well, wait a second. Yes, Scarecrow and Mrs. King, Remington Steele, Cagney and Lacey. And then we started talking about how in what way were those shows feminist? Were they even considered feminist? Or were they just like female leads, which were pretty rare? Anyway, 80s TV Ladies is basically all about TV shows from the 80s that had women either in front of the camera, behind the camera, directing, writing, starring, producing. And the amazing thing is they have gotten so many stars to actually come on the show.
That's awesome.
I mean, I wish I could tell you, but I can't, because she'll kill me because that's her domain. But right now, Stephanie Zimbalist, Laura Holt on Remington Steele, they did 2 episodes with her. We dropped one. We're going to drop one next week. No, she's amazing. And we've got Emmy-winning directors. We've got down the line. Again, I can't tell you. All I'm going to say is if we did Martha Stewart, who was Francine on Scarecrow and Mrs. King. She was on the show already. But if you're a fan of those shows and you're a fan of the stars of the show, I am shocked at how happy they are to come in.
Wow.
Because so many years have gone by, they're not selling anymore.
Sure.
They'll tell you the truth about the show.
Right.
They'll tell you the truth about the co-stars, and they'll tell you the truth about how they were treated, and often it was great, and often it was not so great. And this is for writers and directors, but the stars are so funny because a lot of them are like, well, there was no feminist about it. We were just doing a job. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until years later that, people would come up and go, hey, because of you, I learned that having a career was possible, or opening my own business or whatever the thing was. So it really is interesting hearing them. So again, when you think about the shows, if you like the stars, tune in because they're going on the record. And it's really fun to hear the stories. So anyway, right now they're doing some hour-long crime shows, but then later on they're going to do half-hour, the half-hour comedies, and they're just going to go through all, and then anything that relates in various ways. Different people have come in for interviews, so it's really fun. So 80s TV ladies.
Okay, well,
that's awesome.
I hope they do a 3-episode arc about partners in crime. The Linda Carter, Lonnie Anderson show that only lives in the minds of gay boys such as myself and literally no one else. But yeah, you name checked like all of the shows that I was obsessed with as a kid. I loved Scarecrow, Mrs. King. I loved Moonlighting. I loved Remington Steele. Cover Up. Fantastic. Cover Up. That's the name of the show. Okay. Someone was talking about it a while back, and it's the one with John Eric Hexum. Yeah, that's right. And Jennifer O'Neill, model, as the head of a modeling agency that's a cover for the CIA. Fantastic idea for a show.
We're going to reboot the shit out of that.
It desperately needs it. Like, it's perfect. I mean, because whatever, it's hot people, and then they get it, like they're fashion models by day, and then they're getting into super spy stuff at night. The only thing about it that doesn't make sense is that John Eric Hexum would have been like beaten too bloody to actually be in a photo shoot, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? Nobody's watching these shows because they make sense.
Obviously.
No, that was the great thing about the 80s. Shows never felt like they had to lean heavily into dark realism. It was like, no, it's a TV show. You're watching so you can have fun. We're going to have some fun. And that's something that, really isn't the style anymore. And it's kind of sad because you watch these shows and it's really fun on 80s TV ladies every month. They bring in 3 people they call the 90s TV babies. And these are all people who were born much later who are now watching these shows for the first time and giving their reaction. And those are the ones who are like, wow, this is insane. This is what TV used to be.
Oh yeah, it was
glorious. And it's like, it wasn't all, The Crown and Succession and White Lotus.
I think so. I have told this story on our show before, but I know I've never told you, but you will enjoy it. So I used to work with a guy when I was in LA, Adam Dubob, and his parents were like the Efrons. They were a husband and wife writing team. And they used to write for the Mod Squad and a bunch of other shows. But the point of the story is they wrote an episode of the Mod Squad. But they frequently worked for Aaron Spelling. And then years later, they got a check from Aaron Spelling's production company for Charlie's Angels. And they were very surprised because they had not written for Charlie's Angels. They were not writers on Charlie's Angels, but they got a check. And so they called up Aaron Spelling Productions and they said, look, it's very nice that you sent us this money, but we didn't write on this show. So, we're going to send this check back. And they said, let me check into it and see. And then they came back and they said, no, actually you did. Aaron Spelling just took one of their Mod Squad scripts, changed the 3 lead character names to be the Charlie's Angels, and reran it as an episode of the Charlie's Angels, and then sent them a check for the episode.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is the most amazing thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
That is why television in the 80s was brilliant.
Yeah, because it was so, and the audience did not care. They just that's fine. It's such a formula. We'll just take an old Mod Squad script and it'll be the Charlie's Angels. They had 30 episodes a season they had to crank out. How many ideas were they going to have? So, that was that.
That is fantastic. Well, good for them. Boy, that's the kind of luck doesn't come around a lot.
No, because because I think about that all the time, like, oh, I would have been a great TV writer in 1976. But now I think I'd be a terrible TV writer in 2022. So, because I think back on that, it's like, it's too bad. They probably would have hired a 6-year-old to write a show because, some of the shows, that was fine. They didn't care. As long as they were selling Madge and you're soaking in it in between, they didn't care.
We gotta bring back some of that, just some of the fun. It's like, and every writer I work with feels the same way. They're like, oh my God, if I have to write one more thing where the superhero is brooding because their powers and it's like, you're a superhero. Go do something fun. Go be a fun person and enjoy the joy of having powers,
Yeah.
which is frankly something we do try to touch on in Titans. It's hard because you're doing a drama and you want the stakes to be high. But at a certain point, you want to remind people that for Beast Boy, it's kind of fun to turn into a tiger, that
I wish I could turn into a tiger or maybe a cougar.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like in the in season 4 in the first episode where they're out bowling and he transforms his arm into an octopus arm so he can kind of bowl halfway down the alley and gets a strike, and then he high fives Superboy with his tentacles and they get stuck for a second. It's like,
that's funny.
It's fun. Have some fun with it, Anyway.
Right. Well, Rich, we always have fun with you. I'm glad that we caught up once again, and I'm sorry that AJ and JayBee weren't here. In the next season of Titans, we'll actually have them show up.
Good. Yeah, next time.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so glad you got back in touch. I had a blast last time. This was great. I enjoyed talking to you both. So anytime, look, I'll come on and talk about anything. You know me.
I know.
Put a quarter in and I'll go. So your next slow week, let me know. I'll jump in.
Well, actually, I would like to have you and your wife on. We can talk about her podcast, and then also I'll pepper her for questions about you.
Oh, that is genius. Oh,
that's a good
genius.
idea.
Yeah. For that one, you don't even need me. You can just have her. She'll let you know. That is great, but that would be so great. Let's do it.
Okay, good. All right.
The problem is if I'm there, she won't get to talk because look, you guys have barely said 3 words. So.
Well, between you and Derek, I didn't need to say it at all.
You're the
best
guest.
part.
It's supposed to be about you. It's not supposed to be about. I told that dusty Charlie's Angel story like 60 times on this show over 20 years. They don't need to hear it again from me.
Oh my God. So, all right. Well, look, we'll figure it out. But definitely have her on. So then she can give all the spoilers and tell you everyone she's got lined up because there have been some 80s stars walking down our driveway to the garage where she records the show, and I'm like. When I was in high school, I never thought this would be happening today.
Amazing.
It is amazing. So anyway, that would be wonderful, you guys. That'd be great.
Yeah, I was thinking about that before our interview because we went to high school in Southern California, you would think like, oh, we're so close to Hollywood. We're always hobnobbing around the stars and everything. And the reality was we could have been in Kansas. It felt like we were so far away.
Oh, I know, right? It's like I tell people, well, I grew up in LA, and they're like, oh, no wonder. I'm like, no, you don't get it. It's like, yes, you're here, but you're not there.
Yeah.
There's an invisible wall, and you still have to figure it out.
Well, there really are 2 Los Angeleses. There's Hollywood, and then an actual city full of people who live there and work there and everything else. And we're from the other part. We're from the part with all the regular people around working. And then the Hollywood is like this bubble that descended from the sky directly into the center of town. And it's totally unrelated to everything else.
And it just sort of disseminated like the Body Snatchers, and you never know.
Yeah.
You never know, because the stars, but the people next, like you may have a show that you love, and the person next to you might be the director or the writer or the studio executive who made sure it happened, who could tell you all the stories you want to hear, but you'd never know, and they're right there. So it's a weird town. Yeah,
you have to be careful what you shit talk at a restaurant. Because like you could be at the Olive Garden and then complaining about something, and then the executive producer is sitting at the next table.
Absolutely. It has happened. That has happened many times. Yeah, you do have to be careful.
But not like this. We can say whatever we want here because it's not the same. It's not the Olive Garden.
I'm never careful. I just spout my opinions as loudly as I can in every environment and just wait and see what happens.
Nothing wrong with that.
There you go.
Right. All right. Well, Rich, thanks so much for being with us. And we will definitely have you and your wife
and I will watch the Titans by the next time you're on the show. I'll be all caught up.
Oh, yeah. And I'm going to get way into your wife's podcast. I'm obsessed.
Good. I will be back. I can't wait. And you guys have a great holiday, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks. Good. All right. Thanks, Rich Hatem, for being with us. Titans, new episodes Thursdays on HBO Max, and you can follow him on Twitter. He is Richard Hatem on Twitter. You're listening to Derek and Romaine.
Can't get enough of the show? Follow them on Twitter at DNR Show or like them on Facebook.
And don't forget to tell your friends to subscribe to DNR 2.0 at derekandromaine.com.